So, Igor, Nathan, Prashant, Tausif, Alex. Amazing. Yeah, this is the first time we've all met, so we're just generally getting acquainted as we start to warm up the stage and the event, and it's pretty excited to be the ones kicking it off today. We've got a very, very exciting topic on modular intelligence today, and we've got some real heavyweights to come and discuss. My name is Nathan Vandy. I'm head of DAO at DappRadar, one of the biggest aggregators of DApp data in the industry, and we're super excited about how data is powering the AI industry, and it's one of the reasons why it's going to be amazing to share the stage with all of you guys today. We're going to kick off with a little bit of an introduction of everyone who's here. So please just start by saying your name, the company you work for, and maybe a small icebreaker if you so please.
So I'm Lessio Igor. I'm one of the core developers of Eliza OS. It's a framework, one of the leading framework for the building of agents on chain. I'm also an AI engineer, so I collaborate with multiple teams as advisor for building better agents. And of course, I am also pushing some personal projects that gonna try to remove the friction that we have in crypto.
Yes, I agree so. Hey, hi everyone. My name is Prashant and I'm currently working for Spheron. What we are doing at Spheron is we are building the world's largest community-powered data center. So essentially our core thesis is that if we are looking forward for DefAI or any kind of decentralized systems, you need decentralized computation as well to come out to ensure that we are also able to power that. So that's one thing. Second thing, we are also working in a very open source way and contributing a lot into the framework of AI agent space. So we have built our own AI agent, which is fully autonomous as well. We call it a Skynet XPT, which we are also launching. So those are the two things where we are currently focused on. Thank you.
Awesome. So my name is Tausif Ahmed. I'm a Chief BD Officer at IO.net. For those of you unfamiliar, IO.net is a decentralized GPU network, and we're built on Solana. The two major things we're really known for is one is IO Cloud, which is our decentralized GPU marketplace. We aggregate underutilized compute across a variety of different sources, whether it's independent data centers, former crypto miners, crypto projects, all the way to community members who have compute in their gaming rigs, and offer that up to AI ML startups everywhere to be able to access compute in a cheap and cost-effective manner. We also offer IO Intelligence, which is our inference as a service product. So if any of you want to use the latest and greatest open source models like DeepSeek or Llama and use it at a price point up to 50% lower than any of the other inference providers out there, like Together or Lambda Labs, feel free to talk to me. But yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Awesome. Hey, sorry, 1 second before you do start. Can everyone at the back hear us clearly? Right, yeah. Production at the top. Could we get a little bit of volume for the mics over here? Mine is absolutely fine, but for these ones, it doesn't carry all the way to the back, so we get good to put it a bit closer. All right.
Cool. Hi, my name's Alex. I'm the CTO at Act One, The Prophecy, and the lab that we're incubating now is Act Labs. We're focusing on decentralized agentic economies and specifically building self-sustaining autonomous business models at this time.
Very, very cool. All right, so hopefully our voice is carrying a little bit more. Just make sure that you speak directly into the mic so we make sure everyone can hear. We're going to open up the panel with a question related to the topic, which is actually defining what modular intelligence is. It's quite a wide concept and is still developing as the people build around it. But it'll be great to have an opening for that. We've already heard, obviously, IO.net is building inference for around it, but it'll be great to get an opinion from some of the panel on what modular intelligence means to you.
So modular intelligence in agents, especially, means that...
I think you're holding it like a rapper.
Yeah.
Yo, yo, yo.
So modular intelligence, in my opinion, because as a AI engineer mostly and Web3 developer later, I get to know is not only the communication between agents. So you're going to have a modular system that interconnect various words, okay? Because agents can be anything, okay? Agent is what yesterday was an API. Today is a smart API. So when you need data, when you need information, instead of ping a single endpoint, you can ask more data, more information, more elaborated things to these agents. So first of all, it means interconnection between existing entities, but also the way you build them, you need to be totally modular. It means that you can scale because in the MVP, maybe you had a specific vector database that cannot scale. You need to be able to remove and optimize and put into another one. Yeah. And it need to be something that you know you do natively. And it's not something that's gonna completely change your project. So when you think about the agent from the beginning, it need to be built this way.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And we're already seeing a bit of that transition from more monolithic AI agents to more specialized modular agents working in swarms. So that transition is definitely evident.
Yeah, I'd love to add on. I think great points covered. I think the way we look at the modularity is mostly around the code perspective because, but before I even jump into that, I just want to ask from audience, if you are from dev background or anyone has come from dev background. No?
Dev
only one guy. So the reason I asked that so that I don't get more deeper into that, but understand in this way, very high level. In the real world scenario, we have everyone doing their multiple jobs. For example, when an event gets organized, there is an event organizer, then there are people who might be reaching out to the speakers, there are people who are doing different works. Now imagine if you just put one person and ask him to do all the work, what will happen? It is going to be chaos, right? And that's how industry, and that's how software also works, right? It's software fundamentally works as human work, right? So in a very, I think I have, hello, yeah. So in a very high level, if I have to just put that forward, is like dividing the bigger work into smaller work, and that's what a lot of AI agents even doing today as well, where they break the context into very smaller contexts. And you might have seen that also, where you might have seen that, okay, so there is a language, you wanted to code something, and then that model basically tells you that this is the goal which you want to achieve. Do you want me to proceed, right? And then you say, yes, go ahead and proceed with that. Now, today, the biggest challenge is that proceed part of that model, it only calls the same model again and again, right? What we are currently working, because the entire industry is currently working on, is how we can also divide that job into multiple verticals and give those experts to do the job. And there is a single model which basically aggregates them all. So that's what we are kind of like working also at Spheron. Where we are building the multiple plugin based structure where you can just plug in different plugins into the bigger model, and those plugins gets called at the runtime, and those plugins are itself an agents which are also running independently. So that's what I kind of look at on the modular perspective.
Amazing. Yeah, this is transitioning quite nicely from looking at the transition from monolithic to modular. Understanding how specialized agents can work as swarms, and then understanding the inference of that intelligence as well.
Yeah, I think I can add a little bit more to this. I think for me, with modular, what it really means is it's all about sort of customization and control, right? Like, I think when you kind of use sort of like monolithic agents or models, a lot of how you use it for, it's really dictated by the owner of that closed source model, right? And I think when you kind of talk about, for example, like with something like ChatGPT, I think one of the things that happened is like one of the new model updates that they just rolled out, they changed the personality of 4.0 or whatever the model was to be something really sycophantic, and it made everyone pretty sick of using ChatGPT, but there was no real way to kind of like really change it, right? And that's because there's these centralized decisions being made on how that model kind of rolls out, and you're sort of like stuck with that. I think what modular intelligence, at least my take on it, it really comes down to this ability to really customize like the models that you use, like how you use them, kind of think about different data sources, different preferences, really kind of like lay it out in a way that makes more sense for you, and kind of like do it in a very open source permissionless way, rather than have it be dictated by sort of this owner of this monolith that's really kind of like, driving how that's being used.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's most important to maintain being future-proof, because there's always going to be a different model. There's always going to be new data sources, and modularity just means if you can drag and drop and pick up the new things and work with it as quickly as possible. Because when people are building these monolithic agent platforms, frameworks, whatever it might be, to work with specific data sets or specific models or whatever it might be, they're very, very quickly going to be I can't think of the word right now, but they won't be useful very, very soon, because someone else is going to build something more useful, more interesting. And if you can't immediately move over to whatever that might be, then you're going to fall behind. So maintaining modularity is important, not just in being dynamic, but also maintaining being future-proof.
Very, very cool. Forward compatible and backward compatible. I like that a lot. Yep. Yeah, right. Erhan, is it all right if we turn the volume down of the people at the back? The backdrop noise is interfering with the ability to actually connect with the crowd at the moment. So if like the people at the back could just like quieten them down just a little bit so that we can keep everyone engaged here, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Legend. So yeah, now we'll be able to connect with you guys a lot more. I know that noise was a little bit hard to manage. Could we get a little bit of audience participation? Is anyone in the crowd building in AI right now? So we've got people building in AI. Okay, cool. And so most other people are AI curious. And does anyone use AI tools? Everyone, I guess. Okay, amazing. Yeah. Define tools, because that is the next question, actually. We're going to be looking at the tools that host and manage intelligence for AI. Obviously, last week, ChatGPT rolled out the memory feature, where they can hold the intelligence of the different ChatGPT that you're using. And this is one of the ways that software is now managing intelligence in a really interesting way, but the hardware behind it is centralized, right? So it would be nice to open up this conversation about what are the different software and hardware tools that we have right now in the industry that relate to modular intelligence.
So the example you said is completely centralized. There's no modularity because it's a product that come to you already made, basically. So it's not something it's an idea we can build on, but it's not something we have the ability to build on. Yeah. But is a good example, like Manus, for example, also. So the Web 2 agents, the Web 2 interaction with agent is growing a big. These people, part of these people are going to come to crypto at a point. So we need to prepare ourselves to get that audience in line with our applications. So to build the same thing or better than was presented from OpenAI in a more decentralized way, we need to start with setting some standards that in Web3 are not yet there. Okay, we have, from part of Eliza, so probably 70% of the team that build agents use Eliza, but it's not that we are a standard for the industry. We need to have standards in building stuff that gonna also give us an edge on the security, because Web3 is mostly blockchain, so payments, So transactions, okay, is not just deep research, find me some stuff because I have to do this for the job tomorrow. Yeah. Is, I don't know, pay all the components of the DIO this month. Yeah. This is us, okay? So we need to think about this now, because now we're going to have time before the next wave come in, and the next wave of user don't come from Google, guys. It come from GPT. It come from a different UX that you are not used to adopt because you create an application. Now you just need to do a web chat. You need a chatbot. The user is now want from you the information when he want to. He don't care if you go to your DeFi website and see some charts. He don't care about it. He want to know what is the best yield today. And you're going to ask it to the website, to the chatbot, and the chatbot need to respond to him. This is the new UX. Started long time ago, but get cemented two years ago. So now we have to build modularity on our tools, but we have to think about tomorrow. The UX is completely changed. So when we build stuff, we need to think about that.
Yeah, just rolling back to the question which we had. So, is storing memory is a bad, like in a centralized way, is a bad or good? Or I think it's a very broad discussion where we all can just sit together for a full day and talk about that. But let me put it very straight and simple. Anything where there is a memory involved, there is a centralization happens, no matter what you will do. Either you end up in compromising your speed, latency, and all of those things. And how many people in the world are really ready to going forward, like accept those latencies, right? If not, then the second question comes is like, can these guys go ahead and sell my data? For example, it's a very, very classic example. You go and you write a code. You might be writing some proprietary code for your company. You have just used ChatGPT for asking like, okay, just tell me this code, how it can be fixed, or you have asked something which was quite proprietary to your company and it just went to ChatGPT. Now, imagine on the other side, there is one more user who is an exploiter. He knows or he wants to prompt the same model because they are utilizing the same model as it is, and they are also refine tuning and doing all of those stuff. And he just got an entry into the same RAG model or whatever they are kind of using behind the scene. And he asks the same question again and he gets the answer of your question, which you have asked, right? So there is a high possibility and probability to be kind of achieved and break those system out. And there are a lot of ways you might have already seen system has been exploited in the AI world, where even DeepSeek as well, right? So they were in early days of DeepSeek, I think their system got exploited because they were revealing their entire kernel as well. It was exposing the kernel code. So it's a very tricky question to solve. But coming back to like how can we tackle these kind of things in a very decentralized way? Honestly speaking, it's fairly straightforward. It can happen in two ways. Either you do a P2P manner where you just ask a question, you don't store the memory, you kill it, right? The second is you ask the question, you store the question, and then you only store the question in a very encrypted format, like in a cryptographically verified format and all of those things stuff. Or you work on some pseudonymization engine methods where you just pseudonymize the data which is proprietary, and then you only send the question which is relevant and which AI can easily answer without exposing any proprietary stuff. So I think that's the place where I look at is like where memory is going to be. But and it is also very interesting to kind of see like how it evolves, like how many people are really. And I'm eagerly waiting for the companies when their data is going to get exposed in the black market, right? Because the more you are going to use ChatGPTs and all of these servers, you are exposing your entire proprietary code to them. And what you will find, I'll also tell you one more thing, very interesting fact. If you go today on AWS, you look at their, and I'm not questioning AWS, I'm not questioning anyone here. But if you look at the number of proprietor or the patent they file is huge, right? How can a team of 1,000 people can come up with 100K ideas and they are always keep on filing those patents, right? It's a black box, right? Cloud is always as a system engineer, we look cloud as a black box. Whatever goes inside, you just get an output. You don't know what happens inside, right? So the same is going to be happening with the AI as well. If you're not cautious enough, we are going to lose a lot, and you are not going to lose a lot. You are not just going to lose to a one company and you will lose it. The best way is like you go lease out your compute, do a P2P transaction, do a P2P stuff, and you will be safe. And but again, it comes with its own latency and all of those stuff, which again, we all have to work towards to improve it.
Great.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to touch on that point you just made about the cloud being a bit of a black box, right? And I think this connects to sort of your original point of like, what are the tools like available and ways to kind of really build modular intelligence. I think that's sort of what like everyone in this room is really kind of like working on, and everyone up on this stage too, is I think it's fundamentally sort of what the decentralized AI vision is. It's about kind of really looking at that full tech stack of how AI builders develop today, especially in sort of like a black box, like closed wall garden like AWS, kind of think through all of those pieces and think about how do you decentralize every aspect of that, right? So I think, folks like us and Spheron, we're really kind of focused on sort of like the hardware aspect of it, where like, how do you kind of decentralize the compute ecosystem so that it's not behind this sort of like wall garden of, AWS owning all your data, understanding all your compute workloads, really sort of, like building their moat even stronger because of the fact that you have to use them. And I think, the way I kind of really look at the DAI ecosystem is you really have to go through every part of that tech stack on the foundational compute side, to the data side, to like all the really cool like software aspects that are being built, right? Like agentic frameworks, like decentralized training frameworks. It's like all of these are different pieces of how do we really make the sort of like path of developing an AI more modular so that you don't have to depend on this sort of monolith to kind of get every aspect of, your toolkit to really build.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think breaking apart the stack and trying to decentralize it in any way that you can is really the only way that you're going to be able to have verifiable, what was this trained on? What is the model that's speaking to me? How can I get outside of the black box? Can I verify the data that it was trained on? And then you can understand the information that you're getting back. Otherwise, it's whatever you're being fed. You have really no option to it. And I think trying to incentivize participation in every part of the stack. Decentralized compute is really exciting because it allows people to earn from putting their compute into something that can be utilized by people actually building with it. In the same way with data storage as well, I think Arweave is doing some fun stuff with how they're doing it in terms of AI data storage and accessing it on chain and then being able to verify it that it was trained on that. But it's going to be a tough battle because the monoliths are very strong and very well funded. So any step that we can take in that direction, I think, is a correct one. But I think the blockchain is going to win if we can have verifiable inference. I think that's probably the strongest case that we have in the decentralized manner. And so I hope that we can continue pushing there.
Yeah, really, really good point. When you say decentralized verifiable inference, infrastructure.
It's not infrastructure. I don't mean infrastructure. I mean those. Okay, so I specifically so there's decentralized infrastructure, meaning compute memory storage, and then there's decentralized inference, which is inference is after you've trained on certain data, right? Then you have inference, and if you can verify where that inference came from, the data that it was trained on, then you can understand the responses that you're getting from it. Because then you can understand exactly where it came from. It's not just coming from a black box. It's not just ChatGPT trained on everything. You don't know. You can say, well, I can understand the data that was trained on because it was tracked, it was on chain, it came from here. If that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good question, and it relates to what we're moving on to next, which is like the context around intelligence. I think a lot of people don't understand that right now there's a benchmarking program by Gaia, and players like Hugging Face are looking at LLMs and seeing how well they provide context to the intelligence that they're providing, which is super interesting. And I was wondering, especially in the direction of talking about AO and looking at how inference can be verified, if you guys know about like the IP protocol. Does anyone here know about IP protocol? IP protocol? All right. It'll be great to open up this conversation and go from like this side downwards and talk about the context behind intelligence, how we can create trust and interoperability, because I know that you guys are also building like this intelligence and having it on chain. It'll be interesting to understand the stacks that you guys are using, and then from there we can come down and talk about trust, interoperability as well.
Yeah, I think what Story's doing and why it's really useful within the conversation behind decentralized intelligence is maintaining the idea of IP, because when you're having things trained on your data, you have no control over it right now. And what one of the core ideas behind Story is that you can continue to monetize and continue to own the data that's being trained off of your IP. And so that's, at its core, at least my favorite part about it. And there's going to probably be other things that come along with this. There's a lot of ways around it that people are going to try and implement as well, which I'm sure you've seen with many of the lawsuits that start to pop up with many of the different models. I think this is why Europe is not having as much push with GDPR and how people can own their data. And so I think it's going to be a dance that a lot of people are just pushing through. The big companies are just kind of going headstrong in front of it, regardless of what the regulations are. It's easier to pay the fines than it is to try and abide to the rules. And I applaud Story for trying to push through on-chain, because I think they have the best shot at it. They're well-funded, and I think they're building towards a brighter future in this regard.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I think a lot of the big players are going to take the ask for forgiveness rather than ask for permission model. We're already seeing that with ChatGPT, and I don't know if you guys have Ghiblified any images before. Do you know Ghibli, the anime studio? So 2 weeks ago, there was a craze where everyone was using the art style of Ghibli, which is a famous Japanese anime art style. And the Ghibli studio was really annoyed because, as we discuss now, their intellectual property wasn't being paid for. And we've got this really weird dichotomy where you've got intelligence, you've got it being really open sourced, but you haven't got a way to create trust around how to actually reward it. So it'll be interesting to see if you guys are working on that as well with your verified inference.
Yeah, I think IP is like a really great sort of example for this discussion, right? Because I think it's going to be one of like probably like IP law is going to be one of like the biggest like legal battlefields over like the next like 5 to 10 years, because we're in completely new ground in terms of like, how all this works. I think all of the laws that have been written over the past like 100, 200 years kind of are starting to fall apart. And I think people are starting to freak out about that. And I think, in this sort of like era where like it's very unclear, you sort of see a lot of bad actors or, like people asking for forgiveness rather than permission.
From 100 images in a row, people. Yeah. So when Ghibli come out, a lot of people to put OpenAI in troubles with the GPU was asking 100 picture like that. Wow. And the model was doing it. Yeah. So they even ran out of GPU for this reason, just for an image. Exactly. So yeah. That was a tricky.
Yeah, I forget where I was going with my point.
No, I think basically you're parroting what Jack Dorsey was saying, that IP law is dead. Is this something that resonates with people? Do people think intellectual property law is officially dead? Is this something you think IP law is dead? Does anyone think IP law is still necessary and we need it? Is anyone standing up for the artists and the creators? No? So everyone's like in the middle? Yep. So you think IP law is still needed, right? Okay, all right. We've got one person that still wants the artist to be able to eat.
So I think one thing that's actually kind of interesting, and going back to the story protocol example too, is like blockchain being able to sort of like allow distributed ownership and monetization of models and data is probably going to be one of the key unlocks where, I think we've been sort of stuck in this limbo for the past like 10, 15 years where people are really asking, it's like, well, blockchain is really cool, but what's it going to be used for? I think this is one of those situations where we'll really start to see it being kind of the obvious use case for like solving this, not only in terms of like how people like contribute their data and kind of like track that, but also in terms of, with decentralized training, when it's actually kind of when people contribute their compute to like a decentralized training run and actually even own that model, you really start to build kind of like the underpinnings of, what a, IP economy of the future really looks like, where people can really share in terms of like the data that they provide to the system. And then people who provide like compute to the system can own the end models, and sort of the monetization of those models through, proof of inference and things like that can really be like the benefits, and sort of like the dollars coming from it can actually be sort of like distributed in a very equitable fashion.
Yeah, like having people owning data models and data unions basically is going to be super interesting in the future. We've got about 7 minutes left, and we do want to save a bit of time for any questions that the crowd has. But we've got 2 more points on the list. The first one is regarding to any gaps that we see currently in the AI and Web3 agent stack. We can have it open, but it would be nice if you could have some reference to modular intelligence. But what are the gaps that we see in AI agent stack?
If you ask me Web3, then a lot. Because most of the Web3 agents, they only do one thing, is like they just go like it's just a wrapper. There's literally no innovation, which is very few teams who are working towards innovation. The gap which I personally see is that if I ask many of you today, right, is like go ahead and find out me like the best TVLs out in different protocols and just stake my money there. I can bet you will find very few agents which will be doing it. Okay, very few, and it's on the counts. I can say that. Or you can go ahead and ask an agent to do a deep research around a specific token, just going to Twitter and doing all of those stuff and then give you a result. Again, I can bet very few will be able to do it. So I think there is a very hype nomics which is going on in the industry now, where we have a lot of people coming in and they are just selling the tokens and not even building anything. Because once token is sold, it's sold. They are happy and they are not doing things. So now the industry has to move from place of not just selling the token, but also building something out of it. So that's the one gap which I always see. And it's always pain to see, because I've been in industry for 4 years and like close to around 5 years now, and building continuously day in, day out, and then seeing people coming in and just launching token and doing nothing, going off, rug pulling like a lot of other teams. So that's one gap which I see. Like we need to strongly push for that to happen. The second gap which I see again is mostly around the tool integration. So as you have mentioned very correctly, there's no standards which are set to build, right? So you go Eliza OS, it's like it's a monolith agent, right? You download a code, it's like huge amount of code which gets downloaded, which a lot of people might not even interested to even use it. So I think we need to set certain kind of standards to even allow this communication to happen via payment rails, because agent to agent payment communication system is something which is it's a moat for Web3, honestly, because Web2 you cannot do that. Because in Web2 you have all of these different payment systems, you need KYC and tons of other things to make it happen. But in Web3, the payment to agent payment systems can really work flawlessly, right? And I think there are a lot of teams who are currently working on that part to enable it. But I'm still looking forward to see more people to come and kind of build it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think right now there's a massive gap in complete autonomy and properly trained autonomy, because there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of, let's say terminals that you can, and I've seen this a lot with different, chain MCPs or chain plugins where, okay, trade this asset for this asset, and yes, it will go do it. But there's no autonomy in, I have $1,000 over the next year, do whatever you can with it to make it as much as possible. There's very little intelligent strategy autonomy that exists with agents that can go and do that either at scale or even consistently on any type of trained strategy that exists. It's mostly just tools that are still humans doing. It's an abstraction, but it's not complete autonomy with any type of intelligence. It's mostly just an abstraction for humans to do what they were going to do anyway, which is still very beneficial, and I think it was a massive step for us to take. But I don't think that people are building intelligent and exciting strategies to do things that previously they couldn't do. It's allowing people to do things that they might not have been able to do before just because they didn't know, but I don't think it's allowing people to do things that they would not have been able to do before because they weren't, intelligent enough or good enough or knew the strategies to do so. So that's one of the things that we're working on. I know other people are working on it too, and I hope that becomes more of the standard of what we're trying to build.
So I think just jumping off that point on like true autonomy, I think one of the key unlocks I'm like really excited about that I think we'll have in the near future is autonomous agents actually making DAOs usable and like really great again. Because I think the original sort of like idea behind, DAOs actually stand for like decentralized autonomous organizations, but anyone who's actually been in a DAO can probably tell you how hard it is to actually kind of drive that autonomously. I think like agents that actually have full agency and can be autonomous and, can have particular directives in terms of what they need to accomplish through a DAO, whether it's, treasury management or governance or what have you. I think being able to do that through agents will actually really kind of unlock a situation where we'll for the first time see DAOs being able to compete with sort of like centralized organizations and entities, because I think so far as what we've seen, the idea of a DAO is really great, but the execution really difficult. But with an autonomous agent or like a swarm of autonomous agents, I think that narrative kind of completely changes.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
So I think I agree with my colleagues, and I also think that in Web3, the teams forgot to solve the one single most important problem, that is the transaction. So we have a blockchain. Blockchain is safe, guys. When your asset is in the blockchain, nothing can happen to you. But when you transact that asset to another chain or to just send it to another person, okay, you are exposed. You can be scammed. You can be your wallet can be drained. You can have a sandwich attack. So everything can happen to you only when you transact. So AI come to the space with one single purpose, that is solve the problem. So in the future, near future, I would like to see teams work on intelligence that protect the user in the moment of the transaction. This is, for me, the most important thing to have adoption, because if tomorrow morning the person on the street that chat with ChatGPT get to know that he can come to you and almost nothing can happen to him because there's an entity protecting him in his wallet, well, probably this guy, since he trusts ChatGPT for doing his homework, maybe gonna trust you and buy your token.
Amazing. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for your attention, for your questions. And that's been the talk on autonomous modular intelligence. Once again, please feel free to connect with any of these guys, ask them any questions, building some amazing stuff around this area. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.